Good morning, friends. I'm the Otter. On the previous episode, I was doing a valve cover gasket and just decided to pull the spark plugs out of this Toyota 4Runner. And unfortunately, all the threads were gone on number 4 cylinder. Fortunately, I don't have to do this to all the cylinders, but it is a little bit nerve-wracking. And we're gonna use this $47 Time-Cert kit from Amazon to do the repair. So there's a couple different tools you can use, like a Healy coil. And apparently this one's maybe a little bit better if you have to take spark plug in and out. So this is linked in the description, and wish me luck. So a quick Google search will tell you that most Toyota, most Asian cars have a 14x125 thread in the older cars. Now we're talking about drilling into the head here. So I bought a thread gauge and we're gonna check to make sure the old spark plug was a 125 thread. Verifying the 125 thread is correct because you only have one shot at this. So let's make sure the spark plug is a 14. So 100%, we got a 14x125. So here's how this little bit works. Let me zoom in. So the top section of the thread is actually 14x125, and then it's 15x125 on the top. Look where the piston is. Make sure the piston isn't at the very top. Okay, good to go. So there's no instructions in this $47 Amazon kit. So I watched the Time-Cert. I think this is like a Time-Cert knockoff. And I watched a couple of YouTube videos. So we gotta push this way down so it gets stuck. The fit and finish on it's not very good. You understand, it's a $47 Amazon tool. The provided tap and die holder on the left with the step bit does have a little bit of a wobbly crookedness, so I'm actually going to start this repair off on my own tap and die socket set because it's definitely more straight. So there is a problem with using your socketed one. Basically it's too short. So I did duct tape this into an extension. When you're retapping or re-drilling into the cylinder head, we need to apply a whole bunch of grease to the tap so those basically aluminum chips will get stuck in the grease and not fall into the cylinder head. So using your own tap and die set isn't fully required in this job, and I end up going back to the provided tap holder. Okay, we are going in with the grease. Whew, it's nerve-wracking. Using the step bit, let's put it into the cylinder hole and basically turn it by hand. So the first part of the tap is the standard 14x125 thread, so it does turn by hand pretty easily, considering all the threads are already missing. Once you reach the upper portion of the step bit, you're going to need to get a ratchet, and this is pretty nerve-wracking because you can feel it grinding or recutting the aluminum to a larger size. So you want to periodically pull this out of the cylinder head and clean off all the metal shavings that have collected in the grease. So I completed this about 3 or 4 times, removing the tap, cleaning it, applying new threads, sticking a magnet in there to try to get some metal shavings. So once you get towards the end of the cylinder head spark plug bore, things start to get a little bit more difficult. So I figured out the technique for recutting these threads deeper. So I'm not super familiar with cutting brand new threads. So what you do is basically you take the grease and you put it on the high point so I can see how far I've tapped down into the cylinder head. And then I put a little bit of bicycle lube on these and it seemed like it turned a little bit better. But the real technique, cutting new threads, you may know this, you may not, is to give it enough turns until it gets hard and then back off and then go forward. And it's basically in, out, and it'll push the shavings up. And I am getting some success, but this one's pretty difficult because I'm completely blind on the bottom of the cylinder. I don't know how much more I need to cut, and it's a little bit challenging. I'm gonna go I don't know what the bottom of a Toyota cylinder head looks like. Does it have a seat on the bottom, or is it gonna just push all the way through? This is a little nerve-wracking. I don't know about your cylinder head, but I was able to push these new 15x125 threads all the way down, and that should be sufficient. So that was absolutely nerve-wracking tapping into the cylinder head. So we're gonna move on to stage 2. So this is not a Healy coil. A Healy coil at this point we would just put in. We have to do some more cutting into the cylinder head, which is absolutely nerve-wracking again. So this is like a double seat tool. So the spark plug has a new spot to kind of sit into. So once again, no instructions. So I'm just kind of watch a couple YouTube videos and the proper $200 set from Time-Cert. But I think this is gonna work. Let's give it a go. In order to cut the seat into the cylinder head, we're going to use the step tap and then basically the seat tool all in one with the long tap holder in place. Now you're going to basically chase those threads back into the cylinder head and cut a new seat. I barely go into the hole and it's like literally spitting up metal, so this is a really bad. Okay, so the tap's going back in there, so we're going to put a bunch of this light suspension grease on here to hopefully catch any shavings that occur. So we're going to actually add an extension. We're going to use a locking one because you do not want to be fishing out stuff out of the cylinder. So the Amazon provided extension tap tool basically is walking in an oblong circle. So it was absolutely terrifying thinking I was augering out the existing oversized threads. But it did eventually bottom out and did cut a perfect seat into the cylinder head, and it's extremely hard to show you that. So the tap was basically spinning with no tension, and it was cutting in new threads into the cylinder head. So once you get that basically new seat cut, we can go in with the insert. I didn't film the Timesert install very good. So first step on this tool, we're going to tighten that silver nut so it's tight but not too tight, because you're going to need to loosen that up later. Then you're going to grab one of the Timeserts and screw it onto the tip of this tool. After everything is locked down, you're going to screw this into the cylinder head, and then after it's basically bottomed out, I wasn't sure on how tight to tighten it. I just kind of went probably about 10 foot-pounds. You're going to then go back and loosen that silver nut, and this tool will back out. So I put orange Loctite on it, and what you should put on it is high temp Loctite. Not out of the woods yet. So this Amazon tool set did have a little bit of a shortcoming because the Toyota has such a long reach down into the cylinder. There was barely any threads. There's barely anything for me to grab onto right here. So if you tighten that, you don't want to like wrench on it, because I had to loosen it with needle nose pliers, and there's not much room in that spark plug tool. So I'll check in later once I get the spark plug in there, but let's let that Loctite dry. So I did apply orange Loctite to the Timesert if you didn't catch that. So I let it sit 24 hours because I Googled it and it says it takes 24 hours for Loctite to settle up. So it's early in the morning and it is decision day on whether or not that spark plug tube insert actually worked. Oh, it's getting tight. Oh. All right, that was tighter than it was before. So we're going for a light test drive on this spark plug. So I just spent about 40 minutes driving the 4Runner with the spark plug tube repair. So I didn't tighten the spark plug up to specifications. I barely tightened it just because I'm like so nervous about that thing pulling out. It did seem like there was substantially more power in the truck. I think it was blowing by through the sides. So this is actually the kit I use. It's the WinMax Timesert, basically knockoff Timesert off Amazon. It's $47. So I think this was actually the better repair, because basically you cut a new seat into the cylinder head. So here's the original kit that took too long to show up, and this is like a Timesert one. I think this one would be good on a shallow spark plug, like a motorcycle, some of those American cars with the plug is sticking up high. And this one actually worked pretty good. It was absolutely terrifying, but thinking back, I just kind of overcomplicated it. So the problem is the tool was like going in like this. It wasn't going in, it was going like this, and I just got super nervous. So I probably added like 1 to 2 hours of unneeded anxiety. You just gotta send it, drill it, cut the new seat, put the insert in, wait overnight with the Loctite, even though the orange Loctite may burn off. This is a long series of videos restoring this classic 1997 third generation 4Runner. So if you want to see the entire build, click this playlist on your screen.